This last-minute postponement of our briefing is outrageous, it's evasive, it's derelict. They're bobbing and weaving and ducking. There is a legal obligation for the administration to inform Congress about precisely what is happening. What are they afraid of?
All right, so that was Senator Schumer sounding upset as lawmakers will now have to wait to hear from intel leaders about the U.S. strikes on Iran. Those classified briefings that were scheduled for earlier today for the House and Senate have been postponed. Let's bring in New Jersey Democrat Congressman Josh Gottheimer. Sir, welcome to you. I should say that briefing was supposed to happen this afternoon, and it got postponed just a little bit earlier, just a little bit ago. Do you have anything to add as to why those are being postponed now?
We haven't been told why, and obviously, as someone on the Intelligence Committee, I think it's critically important that members are briefed, and so I'd like to understand what the holdup is. You know, that information to understand where we are right now, what the situation status is in the Middle East, I think is critically important, and I'm going to push, of course, like others, to get that briefing. I think the larger point, though, of course, which is important, is that Iran right now, after 12 days of strikes, is cornered. The attacks were successful, and I believe it's a critical step toward getting peace in the Middle East, and obviously a big win for our service members who did a phenomenal job the last days. Well,
you're not hearing that from all of your Democrat colleagues, sir. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling the president's actions on Iran unconstitutional. Listen here.
The president posted on Truth Social that there is a ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran. Do you believe that?
He also said that it was a war. And I think that the President of the United States admitting that he unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval is a very grave public admission. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional.
Well, she earned a response from the president. He took to Truth Social to respond to her earlier today, Congressman, and said, quote, instead of her constant complaining, Alexandria should go back home to Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in the district she represents and which she never goes to anymore. She and her Democrat friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history. So go ahead and try impeaching me, he says. Again, make my day. Please do weigh in on all of this, sir.
I mean, I'm not going to weigh in on what was clearly an unhinged rant, but let me just
on whose part?
Say, let's get back. But let's get back to. I mean, it's funny. Yeah, look, I'm the president. Obviously, there was no need for him to say what he just said. But let's focus on the substance. Which let's talk about what she said in terms of the substance. I believe clearly that Iran is our enemy, just along with and works closely with our other adversaries, our top ones, China, Russia, and North Korea. Them having a nuclear weapon is unacceptable. We've got to do everything we can to stop that and stop further enrichment. We know what the IAEA recently disclosed with Iran's program, which obviously they continue to move forward toward breakout, toward having a nuclear weapon. We know they're at 60% enrichment now. They get to 90%. They can have a nuclear weapon. That's unacceptable. And Iran is the world state sponsor of the world leading state sponsor of terror, right? With Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestine Islamic Jihad and others. They are a major enemy of the United States, seek to destroy freedom and democracy, and so I think it's critically important that we make sure that not only they don't get a nuclear weapon, but that we stand up to their terror activity, either directly or through their proxies. So, you know, I believe what obviously actions were taken, both by our key ally Israel and, of course, by the United States, was critical to stopping a huge enemy of our country.
We hear you, and we hear you siding with the president's actions there. And noting that you are a Democrat, and not all Democrats agree. But we are watching President Trump right now arrive, Air Force One touching down there in the Netherlands for this summit. Obviously, this will be a key moment, with the backdrop being what happens next with Iran and this fragile ceasefire. As far as responding, though, the reason I questioned whose unhinged rant, because AOC is declaring his actions on Iran unconstitutional. I'll put this Washington Post op-ed up on the screen for you, sir, to react to. with the headline, "Why Trump Didn't Have to Ask Congress Before Striking Iran." President Donald Trump had the authority to order attacks on Iran's nuclear weapons facilities without seeking congressional approval first. The claim to the contrary by several members of Congress contradicts decades of U.S. practice involving similar military deployments. Although the Constitution reserves to Congress the right to declare war, exercising that power requires the legislature to take positive action. So why is it that some of your colleagues don't see that?
Well, I disagree with some of my colleagues, but to that point, other presidents, including President Clinton in Kosovo, President Obama in Libya, obviously took action to protect an imminent threat on the United States. Iran's nuclear activity, I believe, is an imminent threat to our safety and security. So obviously deemed worthy of action. I think if you have a longer incursion, right, and a longer involvement of our forces, then the president, of course, should come to Congress. But obviously, I think these actions were necessary given the imminent threat. Not just the terror threat, but the nuclear threat. And we know that Iran is not our friend, right? Mm-hmm. They've killed scores and scores of Americans, threatened our service members, through their proxies, gone after our bases, and deserved, of course, do everything we can to stop their nuclear threat. And so, obviously, I think this was the right decision. It was clear and decisive in the right action. Again, I think that if there is a longer-term involvement, the president should come to Congress, and also the president should brief Congress, not just the Gang of Eight. And I think it was not the right move not to brief the full Gang of Eight before. The president and his people should have done that, and they also should be briefing us with the intelligence, and I think that's very important. Those are two different things. The action in Iran is one thing, but of course, briefing us is another.
Okay. All right. Well, we're still waiting to hear exactly what the reasoning was there. If it was for Marco Rubio, he's away. So we'll wait an official explanation.
I'm waiting to. I'd like to hear. But more importantly, we should get briefed. It's critically important. And obviously, there's still a lot of work to do to make sure that there is not any further proliferation of any nuclear weapons.
So to your colleagues who are crying for impeachment, like Hakeem Jeffries, you say what?
I don't think Hakeem did, but in terms of other people and like those comments, I obviously disagree with their
Leader Jeffries,
here.
I think it's a tool when asked about impeachment, if it's on the table for Democrats. He says it's a tool that's on the table right now.
I think most importantly right now, what we should do is get briefed on the classified information on what happened here and focus on what's important, that no service members, no Americans were killed here, which I think, again, is a very big win for our military, who did a phenomenal job, and we want to make sure everyone stays safe, but doesn't forget the mission here. The mission is to ensure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon, that we stop their terror program, either directly or through their proxies, and that obviously we get peace into the region.
All right.
We get that done, obviously, very positive movement.
Congressman, we got a lot of activity happening there in the Netherlands. A live shot of Air Force One up. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Good to have him on.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.